that have occurred over the past 10 days. And similar to what we have said in the earlier instances, we want the community to be aware of what is going on, because again, based on evidence that we have at this scene, as well as at the other two scenes where we've had these explosions, this evidence makes us believe that these incidents are related. We do not have a specific victimology or ideology that we have identified, so assigning a motive to this at this point we're not possible to do that based on the stage that we're at in the investigation. We are not ruling anything out at this point, because when you rule something out, you limit your focus of the investigation and you might miss something. So at this point, we are willing to investigate any avenue that may be involved in behind these attacks, and we are imploring the community, if you know anything about these attacks, it is imperative that you come forward and that you let us know. We are having innocent people getting hurt across this community, and it is important that we come together as a community and solve this. We have the continued support and partnership with all of our federal agencies. The Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, Explosives Division is here, along with the FBI, the United States Postal Service, and many other agencies are working with us. We currently have the evidence response team from FBI San Antonio and Austin. They now have their Dallas team coming here to assist us as well. And the ATF is bringing in their national response team to Austin in addition to help support us as we go through this investigation. We are putting together a task force that will work jointly until we conclude this investigation and we arrest the person or persons responsible. And we will leave no stone unturned, because we are not going to allow this to go on in our city. That being said, this will be a lengthy investigation, putting all of this evidence together as we work towards a conclusion. All three incidents that have occurred to this point have all occurred at residences, and we don't want to have people be overly alarmed, but it is important that people be vigilant and be aware for things that look suspicious. If you have had a package show up at your home and you were not expecting a delivery, if the package that is delivered to your doorstep looks suspicious in any way, call 911, report it. We will respond. It may take a little while to get there because we are getting several calls, but we have had all of our law enforcement partners join us in this effort. We have explosive and canine teams joining us from the ATF, from the Department of Public Safety, and we're pulling resources from other Austin areas as well, because we want to ensure this community that we're going to do everything we can to keep you safe while this investigation is ongoing up until that time that we conclude it with an arrest. And we don't know at this point what that timeline looks like. We also know we've got a music festival here in town, and we've got a lot of visitors, and it's important for those that are here in Austin, that are here for the Spring Festival, to be aware of what's going on. Enjoy yourself, have a good time. There's no reason to believe that you are at any greater risk other than be aware, look for things that are suspicious. We've been putting the message out repeatedly. If you see something, say something. If you see something that looks out of place, if you see something that's suspicious, it is important that you call us. And for any residents that have these suspicious packages, under no circumstance should you touch them, move them, or handle them in any way, but instead make that call, and then if you can exit your residence or go to the back of the residence until that time that we can get there and deem that safe. Again, this investigation is ongoing. We do believe that it is related to the other two incidents that have occurred in this city. But again, we have no specific ideology or victimology behind this, and it will remain an ongoing investigation while we pursue any and every lead. So with that, I will open it up for questions. However, remind you again that we are in the preliminary stages, so there is not a lot of information that we can either put out or that we will put out to protect the integrity of this investigation.
Is there any evidence to think that these victims are targeted, especially with this one individual? Was she the intended victim?
We do not know yet whether the victims are the intended targets on these cases. Again, they're being left at homes where there are either multiple residents, or it might even be left at the wrong address. So that's part of the investigation that's going on now, and that's what we're trying to identify, is what is the victimology and what might be in common amongst these victims.
Is there any devices that are similar to any evidence that is similar to the devices that have been exploding in the package wrappings?
What these are box type deliveries, and so again, that's why we're saying if you receive a suspicious package, a suspicious cardboard package, but really I don't want to limit this to anything. If you receive a suspicious package, then call us and let us come out, because a device like this can be hidden in many different ways. And so it's important, again, if you're not expecting a delivery and yet one shows up and it's not from someone that you do business with or that you were expecting, it's important that you call us.
Can you
Describe
describe
the first explosion more seriously. We heard the term isolated incident during that first explosion on March 2nd. Here we are 3 incidents later.
Correct. On the first one, we did believe it was an isolated incident. We had nothing that made us believe in that moment that it was part of anything larger than an isolated incident. Standing here today, having had the 2 incidents that we've have today, and being able to do an initial review of the evidence that we have, we do believe that these are related at this time.
Can you describe the packages and tell us what they might look like?
We're not going to go into the specifics on the actual package because of the protecting the investigation, and that's why it's important for the community. Any package that you were not expecting or that looks suspicious, call us.
Does the current APD's resources at South by Southwest is still going on?
We're luckily a large city with a large police department, and we will manage this. I will say we've had offers for assistance from other agencies to bring in help if needed, and we've actually received a call from the governor's office as well already asking if we need any assistance, and so we're working through that right now. We're putting our plan together. As I mentioned earlier, we've brought in additional explosive K-9 teams into Austin so that we can respond to these calls that are coming in where individuals have reported suspicious packages. It's not time to panic, but it's time to be vigilant, and it's time to pay attention. It's time to pull together as a city and a community and solve this. So we need the community's participation. If you see a suspicious package on your porch or somebody else's, let us know.
The third package, was it left by UPS, by the Postal Service? He said the second one was not.
No, we do not believe that this package here today was left by any of the official mail delivery services, whether it be the United States Postal Service, UPS, FedEx, or DHL, but that will be part of the investigation. Standing here today, though, we do not believe that this was delivered by any official delivery service.
Are they detonating upon opening, or just by moving them from opening, or just by moving them from the porch?
These devices can explode in many ways, either by being moved or by being opened, and that's why I want to reiterate the importance of, if you see something that's out of place, do not handle it, do not move it, do not touch it. Call us.
Have the victims been able to say how long the package was at their door? Do they have any idea of when it was dropped off or anything like that?
No, what we know is the victims, when they've seen these packages on the front porch, they have gone out and they have handled them in some way or another, and we've had the explosions occur.
Chief, are there any connections between the victims?
No, again, what I mentioned earlier, we're working on victimology right now. That's one of the things you want to do when you're investigating what you believe to be a series of incidents, is you want to look for commonalities among your victims where their paths may have crossed, so that you can determine if it is connected or if it is random. And at this point, we have not yet determined that.
But you still got possible hate crime.
We can't rule anything out. As I mentioned earlier today, when you rule something out, you limit your focus and you may miss things. So what we have had to date right now is we have had 2 victims that were African American, and the victim of this latest incident was a 75-year-old Hispanic female. So we are still working to identify whether or not that may play a role, but we're not going to rule that out, as we're not going to rule out any other potential motive.
Are they relative in size, even big, small?
I can't go into the specific sizes, but they're an average size delivery box. They're not exceptionally large.
Do you have suspects at this point?
You know what? We've got a pattern of incidents that have occurred in this community over the past 10 days, and so that we believe are related. So that's what we're focused on right now, is the connection between the 3.
Any kind of vehicle or description of a person or anything that anyone's seen?
No, we do not have any descriptions of suspects or vehicles, and that's why, again, it is so important that the community, if you believe you know something, if you have heard something, however trivial you may believe it to be, that may be the piece of information that we need to crack this case. So it's important that you report that to us.
Are you calling this a serial bomber, sir?
From people about potential suspicious packages. Have any of those turned up any leads, or have any been suspicious when you've examined them upon arrival?
No. So we've, since this morning's press conference, when we implored the community, please let us know if you see something suspicious, we have received several calls. None of those calls have turned out to be anything suspicious or anything explosive.
Chief, what kind of explosive is it? Do they seem to be amateurly made? Do they seem to be expert put together? I mean, just the extent of how the packages appear as far as the detonation.
You know, the bomb techs are putting all this together, and that's really for the experts, the ATF and my bomb squad. But what we do know is we have an individual that has the ability to construct these bombs and to have them successfully detonate and cause what we've seen so far, serious injury and loss of life.
What type of explosive is it, and is it the same in each instance?
That's part of the ongoing investigation. There's a lot of analysis that has to go into the chemical composition, and we have not yet determined what they're using as the explosive charge.
Chief, are you calling this a serial bomber case?
We're not calling it a serial bomber, but we have a pattern of instances that have occurred in the community that we're very concerned about, and that we have brought all of the resources possible to bear. What the community, number one, we want them to be vigilant, but we also want them to understand that there is no stone that will be left unturned. And what you have seen behind us here, as well as at the other scene, is a complete cooperative effort between the federal agencies, the local agencies, and we are now cooperating and being provided assistance through the state agencies as well. This is of the interest to all of law enforcement because this is someone that everyone wants to see put to an end and stop these bombs.
How powerful are these explosives? Like, what is the circumference of the ground that these explosives are covering? Like, are these very powerful explosives? Is that surprising to you? I mean,
yeah, these explosions are obviously powerful enough. You all saw what happened at the initial incident 10 days ago, that it caused significant damage to that front porch area, and there was significant damage done this morning as well. So these are very powerful devices, and that's why, again, it is so imperative that no one attempts to touch, move, or handle one of these packages if you come across it.
what does it say about the person that's making these bombs? I mean, if they're this powerful, what kind of expertise does someone have to engineer something like this, pull it off, be able to deliver it without detonating it?
Again, as I said earlier, that's what the bomb technicians and the ATF are working on right now. However, there is a certain level of skill that is required to put a device like this together successfully, and then to have it detonate in the manner in which these are, and to cause the significant injuries and death that they have.
Are they ringing the doorbell?
No, they're not ringing the doorbell. These the residents are coming out and finding these packages on their doorsteps. Thank you very much.
Mayor, Chief, is there any link between the victims at all? Have y'all found anything to connect them?
That was Austin Police Chief Brian Manley. Authorities now investigating a series of explosions in Austin, Texas. Police believe that they could be linked to one another. This blast killed a man nearly 2 weeks ago in the state's capital. In fact, now there are 3 potential victims, all of the same potential bombing victim. The Texas governor just an hour ago announcing a $15,000 reward for the possible capture of the person or persons who may have been, who may be responsible for these bombings. Again, they're not mailed to particular victims. They obviously, though, must have a more powerful enough explosive impact that we have seen loss of life. One question as to the victims. Apparently, so far, there have been 2 black male and 1 Hispanic woman. She was 70 years old. Want to go now to Fox Business Network's Hillary Vaughn, who happens to be in Austin right now with the latest. Hillary.
Hey, well, we've heard 3 explosives in 10 days, just 2 today. Police are on high alert, but they say they still have no motive because they haven't been able to determine who this suspect that's placing these bombs on these doorsteps are targeting. You can see down the line here, that's one of the homes where the box was placed on the doorstep. They don't know if these 3 explosives are similar, or they do know that these 3 explosives are similar enough that authorities believe them to be linked. All 3 were boxes of medium size left on people's doorsteps. They don't believe that any official mail services, whether it's the post office, UPS, FedEx, delivered these to their door. They are looking into figuring out how the explosives were engineered. They're not giving us any type of detail on the mechanics behind this, but I asked them what kind of person is able to pull something of this size off, and they said it is someone who is very skilled and is able able to put and engineer a bomb in a box, leave it on a doorstep without detonating it, but when someone goes to move the box or open it, that bomb then goes off. So there is a level of finesse here that authorities are looking into. But again, they're not identifying who is being targeted here at all. They're still looking into the victimology. They say they're not ruling anything out, whether this is a serial bomber on the loose. They're saying they're looking into everything here because they don't want to leave any stone unturned.
Hillary, thank you very much. We'll have more on this as we get more details. Meantime, the showdown in Pennsylvania, just hours before voters there head to the polls. The candidates in today's special election making their final push to get out the vote. Republican Rick Saccone and Democrat Conor Lamb battling it out in Pennsylvania's Steel Country. Will President Trump have an influence on that race? We've got Fox team coverage with Molly Line in Pennsylvania and Blake Berman at the White House. We want to begin with Molly.
Hey, Charles, we are on the ground here in the 18th Congressional District. This once reliably red district has proven to be quite a contest between the Republican and the Democrat here on the ground. And there's been a tremendous amount of investment made from both parties, especially the Trump family, actually. Donald Trump Jr. has been here on the ground campaigning with the Republicans. State Representative Rick Saccone today. They were at a candy factory, the Saris Candies in Canonsburg. Great place, great candy. We had some chocolate today. But take a listen to what Donald Trump Jr. had to say. All right, on the trail, Saccone stressed his long resume, including his time in the Air Force and as an international businessman and diplomat. He's been working hard to align himself with President Trump's agenda, including the president's tax cuts and new tariffs on steel and aluminum. Meanwhile, the Democratic contender, Conor Lamb, a former prosecutor and Marine Corps veteran, also rallied this weekend. He joined the United Mine Workers of America in Greene County for a Get Out the Vote event. Lamb has pulled in supporters as far as union support goes, from carpenters to coal miners and steel workers. He's been endorsed by the Pennsylvania AFL-CIO, that is the largest federation of labor unions in the state, and he has vowed to support those coal miners through retirement to push back against Republicans. So this district was once again thought to be a Republican-leaning district, but recently this race has tightened and is now thought to be a toss-up. Charles, back to you.
Thank you very much, Molly. Now I want to go to Blake Berman on what's at stake for the White House. Blake.
Hi there, Charles. And keep in mind here, President Trump, just some 15 months ago or so, back in November of 2016, won this normally deep red district by some 20 points. If you look at the latest polling and think it's even somewhat accurate, this is a potential flip into the Democrats' column, as the latest polling out from Monmouth University today has Conor Lamb up by 6 points, crossing the 50% threshold, up to 51% support in Pennsylvania as well. President Trump was there over the weekend. He gave one of his style-like rallies. He had just a few references to Rick Saccone. He also had this observation and a new nickname as well.
Conor Lamb, Lamb the Sham, right? Lamb the Sham. He's trying to act like a Republican, so he won't give me one vote. Personally, I like Rick Saccone. I think he's handsome.
Applause there for that one. Applause as well for the president's new tariffs that he just signed off last week here at the White House, in which the president thinks that will play well within Pennsylvania. He did send out a tweet on Rick Saccone's behalf earlier this morning, in which he said of Saccone the following, quote, "He will be much better for steel and business, very strong on experience and what our country needs." However, Charles, there is a report out there that the president privately, according to Axios, called Saccone weak. The White House press secretary Sarah Sanders was asked about that at the daily briefing here just a little while ago, and she said she could not comment. Charles?
Blake, thank you very much. GOP congressional candidate Rick Saccone on Cavuto Live saying he is ready for tomorrow's Pennsylvania showdown.
I relish being the underdog. I won my first state house race in a 76% Democrat district with $1,500 that my wife and I saved up to start the campaign. No one thought we could win. I've won 4 elections since then. This is my 5th one. So I always love defying all the so-called experts and their predictions.
By the way, we did reach out to Democrat Connor Lamb, but thus far I've not heard back from him. Meanwhile, a report by Axios quoting unnamed sources as the president has been privately slamming Saccone as a, quote, weak candidate. So what does RNC chairwoman Ronna McDaniel make of all of this? She's going to join us now. Ronna, what do you mean? I mean, again, these sort of unnamed sources or people who know people, but now the word is that President Trump privately trashing Saccone, even though he went there over the weekend to campaign for him.
I was with the president this weekend and Rick Saccone. The president is working as hard as he can to elect Rick Saccone. He needs more Republicans in Congress. He knows that Connor Lamb is running as a Republican, but is certainly not going to be a vote with this president if he makes it to Congress. All I see is the president getting 100% behind the candidate that's going to come help move forward his agenda.
There must be some, though, frustration with President Trump saying that he won this Pennsylvania 18 by 20 points. And that it's certainly at this point going to be a toss-up. What does he say about the fact that Saccone has not been able to leverage what we've seen in the economy and the president's own popularity?
Listen, we look at every special election as different. We've won 5 out of 5 this year. This is unique because, one, we had a Republican congressman who had to step down because of personal scandal. So that's incorporated into this district. And then you have a Democrat who didn't have a primary who's running like a Republican, pro-gun, pro-tariff, saying he'll vote against Nancy Pelosi. We know that's not going to be true. But those create challenges within that district. Every special election is different. The president's coming in. He's going to campaign for every single candidate. He would win in that district today. He wants to help Rick Saccone win because he knows that he's going to need to keep that majority so he can keep this economy humming, keep jobs coming back to this country, and keep wages growing.
Obviously, a lot at stake for Republicans. A lot of Republican money is poured into this campaign from outside of the state. Donald Trump Jr. there as well today. What does it mean for the party if Lamb comes out ahead tomorrow?
Well, we're going to compete in every single race. We know that the first term of president that you usually lose seats. So we're going to fight to keep this majority. Listen, America's on the right track. Wages are growing. Jobs are coming back. Our economy is humming. People are feeling better. Democrats voted no on every single aspect of the tax cuts. Connor Lamb didn't support the tax cuts. If we turn it over Pelosi, we will be turning back the clock and going back to the dark ages of Schumer and Pelosi. And we need to keep those majorities so we can keep our economy strong. So we're going to fight for every single seat in every single district. But one special election is not a bellwether for anything that's going to happen next November. We all know how much changes month to month in politics. And I think next November, voters are going to go look at their paychecks, which are bigger, and their jobs, which are coming back, and their families who are able to put more money in their pocket. And they're going to say, this is because of Republican leadership and President Trump, and we cannot afford to put Pelosi back in charge.
You know, Ronna, you mentioned that Lamb running as a Republican. That's an irony there. What do you make of the fact that he's distancing himself from Nancy Pelosi? What does that say to Democrats on the national stage? This is their leader, and you've got a key race where the guy's saying, hey, I'm not with her.
Yeah, I mean, Connor Lamb is distancing himself from a very unpopular Nancy Pelosi, a millionaire from San Francisco who has nothing to do with the values of Pennsylvania. He's one of the few Democrats who are getting a free pass and not having a primary challenge. You're not going to see that in any other races around the country. It's going to be very hard for other Democrat candidates to distance themselves from Nancy Pelosi. So this is a unique race. It's a unique special election on a different date. It's going to come down to turnout. The RNC's made over 1 million voter contacts. We are working as hard as we can to elect Rick Saccone, and we know that we're going to have to do battle all across this country to keep these majorities.
All right. Thank you very much, and good luck. We'll talk to you again very soon.
Thanks for having me.
All righty. Hey, ICE agents trying to track down an illegal immigrant in Colorado charged in a deadly hit-and-run accident, but are local officials standing in the way? Wait till you see the latest on this. ICE agents on the lookout for an illegal immigrant charged with vehicular homicide in Colorado. The man was released after posting bond over the weekend, and right now his whereabouts are unknown. Alicia Acuna is in Denver with the very latest. Alicia, what's going on?
Hi, Charles. Well, Colorado jails stopped detaining illegal immigrants for ICE agents about 4 or 5 years ago, but it is their policy to at least let agents know when someone's going to be released. That did not happen this time. And now both ICE and the Denver Sheriff's Department say this man, Ivan Zamaripa Castaneda, is gone. He was arrested after police say he was driving under the influence when he hit a semi-truck, causing this fiery crash where the driver, 57-year-old John Anderson, died. Police say the suspect from Mexico and here illegally took off and was arrested later. The Sheriff's Department says it's unconstitutional for them to detain someone for ICE without a federal warrant, but that it is their policy, again, to give ICE a heads up if a suspect is going to be walking out of jail, except this time they didn't. The Denver Sheriff's in a statement saying this is unacceptable, and the sheriff has ordered an immediate internal review to determine why established notification processes did not take place before Zamaripa Castaneda was released. The head of the Denver ICE office says it is working with the Sheriff's Department, but, quote, as law enforcement professionals, we should all have the same ultimate goal in mind, to protect the public by combating criminals. Again, Charles, this suspect is due back in court in April. Right now, no one can find him. Charles.
Well, thank you very much. Well, this latest controversy coming on the heels of Oakland's mayor warning illegal immigrants of ICE raids. Reaction from New York Republican Congressman Lee Zeldin. Congressman, thanks for joining us. I don't know, the hubris or I don't know what you call it, that it feels like not just states, but even cities now, municipalities have declared war against the right of the federal government to dictate immigration policies, and going as far as letting someone out of jail to lose contact with this potential killer is just shocking.
And the federal government is responsible for setting the immigration policies. So what you're seeing with these sanctuary city policies is an obstruction that also, not only does it harm public safety within their own community, it especially harms the public safety of those ICE agents who are now in just doing their job, they kiss their sons and daughters goodbye, and they go out to work, and they're willing to risk it all in protection of our country and those communities. And they're now at increased risk. And in Denver, for example, you have a detainer order that came out days beforehand. You have a request for notification that came out days beforehand. And then 65 minutes after the release, then Denver is informing ICE. So I mean, they could do an investigation as far as the delay goes.
Right.
But the fact that they even have this policy of not working with the feds, who are just trying to do our job with immigration policy, I mean, it's just wrong on so many different levels.
His bail was $25,000, which meant he only had to put up $2,500, and that's sort of problematic considering the gravity of the situation. But when Jeff Sessions talked, he went out to California, and of course the administration is now suing California. He talked about not just them not working or cooperating with the federal government, in this case the administration, but actually the state raiding ICE and Homeland Security facilities, shaking them down, intimidating federal agents who are there to do a job. And to your point, they're mostly saving the people in these communities themselves.
Yeah, it's unconstitutional what these sanctuary cities are doing. They are obstructing federal policies. They are pandering to a base within their own cities. You have media in these cities that are backing them up. So in the Denver example, you have local media calling this illegal alien, or you call him an illegal immigrant, they're calling him an undocumented driver. And so you have this whole climate, this culture of these policies that are causing this increased risk for our great ICE agents just trying to do their job.
And yet, Oakland's mayor now becoming something of a celebrity within the sanctuary movement itself, openly defying President Trump and Attorney General Sessions. So how do you combat this when it feels like more cities and states are actually saying, yeah, I want to be a sanctuary as well? I know certainly New Jersey's new governor ran on that platform also.
Well, you have to commend the Attorney General for his leadership on this issue, going back to his time in the Senate. But right now, as the Attorney General, he is going full bore to combat these sanctuary cities. He is bringing cases that hopefully will stop it in the courts. If that doesn't work, the federal government also has leverage with regards to the money that is provided. So any leverage that we have whatsoever to get these local municipalities to do the right thing, we have to do. With the leadership, President Trump, AG Sessions, and Congress, we all have to work together to get done. Law enforcement working together is the right answer, like at the top of your show, when you're showing what's going on in Austin, and you have FBI and ATF standing behind the Austin police chief. That, and we learned from Parkland what happens when you don't work well together.
Quickly, let me ask you also a related topic, MS-13. I saw an article in the Washington Post, and it just struck me that the mainstream media are getting around to sort of acknowledging that maybe we've got a problem, even though it's an epidemic in many places in this country.
Yeah, we do, and I'm from Long Island, and the president at the State of the Union address had the 4 parents of those 2 best friends who were murdered. And in the middle of last year, President Trump came up to Suffolk County, where my district is from, after you had 4 people killed in that central islip field. Right. So the president himself, the administration have gone all in as it relates to my local area, doing everything you need to combat MS-13. The other side needs to wake up and get with it, including with immigration policies that are in a broken immigration system.
It's an epidemic. It's really, Congressman, thank you very much. Really, really appreciate it. Well, police are investigating a series of deadly package explosives in and around Austin, Texas. What investigators are looking for right now. We've got it for you next.
This evidence makes us believe that these incidents are related. We do not have a specific victimology or ideology that we have identified, so assigning a motive to this at this point we're not possible to do that based on the stage that we're at in the investigation. We are not.
Police linking a series of deadly package explosives around Austin, Texas. So what are authorities looking for? Retired Las Vegas police lieutenant and host of Blue Lives Radio, Randy Sutton, joins us. Now, Randy, so far three of these bombs have gone off since early in the month. Now the police chief there in Austin saying they are indeed connected. Where do they go from here?
This is a very complicated investigation. And let me be really clear. When you have a serial bombing like this is designed to terrorize, and it is terrorizing the community of Austin. The fact that there was a time period between the first one and the second one of almost a couple weeks, and then between the second and the third, just the same day, shows that this is escalating. And bombers are some of the most cowardly of criminals. You don't have to face your victim. And so a person that does this kind of crime is basically inherently a coward.
Obviously, now it's going to get harder for this coward to do his or her bidding. And from what I heard from one of our reporters, Hillary Vaughn, saying that these boxes are sort of medium size. They're not small packages. Obviously, the explosives, the detonations have been powerful enough to take lives. So what should people be on the lookout for?
Well, first of all, they have now been, everybody in Austin knows about this now. If a package appears on your doorstep and you're not expecting it, don't go anywhere near it. You contact the police immediately. And here's the other thing. This took a skill level, okay? For the bomber to create this type of device, and each bomber has their own signature. When I say that, I mean that the methodology in which they create these devices, the components that they use and the way they put them together, the ATF is very, very good at what they do when it comes down to determining what the signature of that bomber is. But it takes a skill level, the fact that he didn't blow himself up when he was doing it, but there's also the fact that there's cameras everywhere. If this individual, it doesn't appear that they used the post office at this time or package delivery. So that means this individual put it on the doorsteps himself, or he had an accomplice do it. This could be the lead that the police need.
So, Randy, again, the citizens now in Austin, how do they proceed from here, knowing, of course, that there could be more attempts like this, and hopefully, to your point, there's a signature or some sort of evidence that they capture this person. But between now and then, there's going to be sort of a dark cloud over this town.
Oh, absolutely. That's why I say, when I say that these devices are serial bombing like this, especially isolated to one community, this is devised to terrorize. You don't want to call it a terrorist because everybody sees that as an ideological, and we don't know if this is ideological or not. What is going to be really critical here is the victimology. Right. Connecting all the victims. What is their connection and how are they connected to the suspect?
Right. The police chief, Brian Manley, said as much, although he has been reluctant thus far to call it a serial bombing. Randy Sutton, thank you as usual for your expertise.
My pleasure, Charles. Thanks for having me.
Well, we're going to get an update on that deadly helicopter crash here in New York City. That's just a few moments away. And President Trump wasn't just talking to the World Series champs. He was also talking up the economy and he's starting to hit some home runs there. We have the details for you next.
Your country is doing fantastically well. We had one of the best economic days in our history on Friday. The numbers were announced, and you're going to see other numbers coming out. We're really back on track.
President Trump congratulating the World Series champs, the Houston Astros, and the economy today. The Dow, though, today taking a step backward after that big rally on Friday, but it's up huge, and it looks like stocks are really coming back strong. I want to talk now with Melissa Armo, Heather Herzog, and Ashley Webster about this. Melissa, you're bullish on this economy and the market.
Definitely, absolutely. In fact, today, even though we closed a little bit down in some of these sectors, I think that the market overall looks very, very strong. I look at today as a strong day because we gapped up in a weird area today that we could have dropped, and then we held. We held the low. In fact, I think we're probably higher tomorrow.
Heather?
Operative word here is $1 trillion. That is where Apple's market cap is going to be, within 9.5% away from that. So, yeah, I think to Melissa's point, the market is certainly strong. The economy is strong. Are we going to see more volatility? Absolutely. But that's just the name of the game right now.
But the bottom line is that we have leadership, right? You mentioned Apple, consumer discretionary stocks are the big winners today. Anytime you see Apple, Netflix, Amazon, we think of them as tech names, but those are really reflections of the consumer, 2/3 of the economy.
Right, and corporate earnings. I mean, earnings are coming up soon. Like, we have to gauge that as well. But we've had some strong earnings, specifically coming out of the consumer sector, and which is something that I constantly watch.
Well, we had just about, Ashley, arguably one of the best earnings seasons ever. 77%
and there was a lot of charge-offs in there because of the new taxing and accounting rules. It will get even better in the next quarter.
But I was excited about the revenue part, right? 77% beat on revenue. Guidance is going higher, and it just feels like, even again, we gave some back today, but what I found interesting on NASDAQ, on the New York Stock Exchange, 148 stocks hit new highs, only 25 new lows. 270 stocks on NASDAQ hit new highs. I mean, this market is gangbusters.
There's confidence out there. The macroeconomic backdrop, to your point, is still very strong. The tax reforms are in place. The last jobs report was the Goldilocks report of all Goldilocks reports, because it showed great job creation without that wage growth getting carried away. So we worry less about inflation and the Fed raising rates and all of those things that created that huge market drop back in the January jobs report. I think, obviously there's a concern about the tariffs. What's that going to do? Do we get into a global trade war, which is really not good for the market? The market won't like that. But underlying all of this is a very solid economic backdrop.
By the same token, though, what the market would like is a 3% GDP growth, and the only thing that held us back in the fourth quarter was trade. So there's no doubt, Melissa, that something has to be done. And whether you like President Trump's quote-unquote ham-fisted approach or not, this is the one element that we need to turn around, because the rest of the economy is firing on all cylinders.
Right. Well, we're in an environment right now. It's funny. Everybody's making good points. We're in an environment that has volatility because it's headline risk. It's kind of strange because we're in a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week news cycle where a headline can come out, Trump, tariffs, this, that thing, and all of a sudden then it can change, but then it can turn around really quickly. Like, we had that drop off. Look how fast we retraced it. So yes, you're right. Not everything is perfect, but overall, we're in an uptrend. Overall, I think we're gonna hold it. Right. And look at the broader market. The banks are so strong. Goldman made a new high today. You're not going to have the market come in and collapse with these banks looking so strong. With interest rates rising, that's good for the banks. The banks are going to get more deposits now.
Also, interest rates going higher reflect a stronger economy as well, Heather.
Right, absolutely. And to your point regarding these companies and this trade war, yes, of course, a trade war would be terrible. But when you have companies like ArcelorMittal, who are based overseas but own steel mills here in this country, and can't give out profit sharing because they're not making money here, and they're advocating for these tariffs. I mean, it's a really major point. I mean, when you have companies like that advocating for tariffs,
market's going to shake it off. Market's going to shake it off. I'm telling you, market looks so great, it's going to shake off anything. That's what it looks like to me.
The thing is, though, steel and aluminum accounts for like 1.6% of all imports. It's a tiny fraction. The theory is that it starts to spread into other sectors.
And we want to make these companies profitable here in the United States.
What's not tiny, though, is the $171 billion trade deficit we have with the EU, the $350 billion trade deficit we have with China, the $71 billion trade deficit we have in Mexico. We can fix that, tweak that. We will have a Goldilocks economy for real. All right, guys, thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Well, President Trump agreeing to talk with North Korea. So why is Kim Jong-un choosing right now to be so quiet? And do we need to worry about his radio silence? Well, we're going to have more on that next.